Friday night, movie night. Barbie, it is. The cinema lobby celebrated its offering with pink balloons. For the occasion, my wife donned a bright pink jacket, the sartorial equivalent of a billboard proclaiming, "We're going to watch Barbie." I found it equally endearing and admittedly faintly embarrassing in a funny way. Waiting in line to get the tickets, I noticed the 20-something in front of us also wore a pink shirt, and then another one in pink trousers, and another one, and a guy in a pink polo shirt. From a queue at the cinema, this was turning into a gathering of some sort. Of mere Barbie fans, perhaps, but maybe also of Barbie fans who happen to share something more than Barbie fanhood. The pink garment's a symbol of something other than a simple display of Barbie semi-cosplay. Anyway, nachos? Check. Coke? Yes. And go. Barbie lives in Barbie world. It's a perfect world that, like Barbie, has continually grown and evolved since it came into existence in 1959. The first Barbie was the stereotypical, idealized Western blonde, long, lush, shiny hair on a busty, hourglass figure, balanced on long legs, way too long, perched on small, arched feet, way too small and way too arched. 300,000 were sold that first year alone. By 1960, out of Barbie's left rib was made V-chested Ken. In 1968, at the heel end of the civil rights movement, Barbie's dark-skinned friend, Christy, makes her appearance. By the beginning of the 80s, Barbie proves that she can be anything she wants to be. An Olympic skier, a skater, a gymnast, a doctor, a surgical nurse, Hispanic, Oriental, Black, Italian, French. By 2000, she is running for president, championing equality, world peace, education, and the environment. In Barbie's perfect world, every woman is Barbie, and Barbie is every woman, regardless of skin color, hair type, body shape, pregnancy, or disability. If Barbie can be anything, so can you. Imagination, life is your creation. But under this veneer of plastic there are cracks, and we first catch glimpses of it, not in Barbie herself, but in Ken. He's jealous, he seeks her attention, her approval. Despite his lack of genitalia, or perhaps because of it, he craves a form of intimacy with her that even he seems not quite able to figure out.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend-boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
A few scenes later, even Barbie starts to malfunction. We see her start to unravel when she wakes up one day to find she has flat feet. But the real party pooper, vinyl scratching, drop your friend's jaws moment comes in the middle of the dance floor when she blurts out,
"Do you guys ever think about dying?"
"Your plastic friends may not, but we do, Barbie, we do. We mortals recognize life is not infinite. It ends all too soon. As Martin Heidegger pointed out, we're being towards death. We live with the awareness of our mortality. We should use that awareness to appreciate and value how precious is our existence and the vast chasm of non-existence stacked against it. It should give us purpose and drive us to live authentically. But really, most of the time, mortality is just terrifying. And it terrifies Barbie, so she seeks help to reverse it. That help, that wisdom, comes in the form of yet another Barbie alter ego. Weird Barbie, the outcast Barbie, a doll that's been played with a little too aggressively. It seems that the source of Barbie's malfunction is a very real sadness in the real girl that plays with her in the real world. Weird Barbie makes it clear.
You can go back to your regular life, or you can know the truth about the universe. The choice is now yours.
Stay in Barbieland and forget about it, or go to the imperfect, real world. The blue pill versus the red pill. Ignorant happiness versus the willingness to learn potentially unsettling and life-changing truths. Part 1. Women are made, not born. Red pill Birkenstock it is, and along tags a stowaway Ken. The real world is shocking. Almost as soon as they start exploring, wide-eyed, Barbie's and Ken's experiences of it start to diverge.
I feel what can only be described as admired, but not ogled, and there's no undertone of violence.
Mine very much has an undertone of violence.
The male gaze, as posited by film theorist Laura Mulvey, sees women as objects of male desire, meant to be looked at and drooled on by a male audience. This objectification, Mulvey argued, was a reflection of and a reinforcement of the power dynamics in society. Viewed this way, it's symbolic violence because through it, women are symbolically reduced to passive recipients, mere objects of male desire, rather than seen as active, independent, autonomous beings. In 1949's The Second Sex, Simone de Beauvoir introduced a tremendous eye-opener. Women are made, not born. It refers to the idea that what society perceives as feminine is a construct, a result of socialization, rather than something that is inherent or biologically determined. De Beauvoir argued that gender roles and behaviors, particularly those associated with being a woman, are learned through societal norms, expectations and conditioning, rather than being innately tied to one's sex. In other words, women become women because of how society expects them to behave and think, not because of their biological features alone. In parallel, de Beauvoir's companion Jean-Paul Sartre claimed that existence precedes essence. First we come into existence, or are thrown in the world, as Heidegger puts it, and then we make ourselves through our lived choices. That is some tremendous power, immense freedom. We're able to determine ourselves because we are free to do it. Not only can we do it, but we are constantly doing it through the incessant stream of choices that make our lives. We form ourselves and become authentic by grasping the reins of that freedom. We can only do this if we realize that this freedom is ours to take. Authenticity is about recognizing who we are, including our desires, thoughts, values, and emotions, and acting in accordance with them. When we're authentic, we're not pretending to be someone else or trying to fit someone else's idea of what we should be. We are honest with ourselves and others and live in a way that aligns with our unique identities and beliefs. Authenticity encourages us to be genuine. Anything less, and we're risking not being true to ourselves. And women, for centuries, have been subjugated into inauthenticity by a social system that promotes men as holders of authority and ownership over women, children, and property. The patriarchy implied male privilege and depended on female subordination. Even today, after more than a century since the introduction of female suffrage and increasing gender emancipation, the patriarchy can be seen as a source of oppression and marginalization of women and non-binary individuals. Barbie World flips the script of the real world, and every meaningful person is a woman. The Kens play second fiddle. Now, of course, not all men are threatening and not all women are non-threatening. But as a movie, Barbie does its job of being a work of art, distilling themes and taking them to extremes. It attempts to address greater values by partly universalizing and stereotyping the deficiencies of the real world. In the Barbie real world, Mattel's boardroom is full of men who go by the maxim that no one rests before this Barbie's back in the box. In contrast to this male-driven territory, we start to see Barbie world as something more than a fake, plastic toy world. It becomes a delicate bubble of dreams and ideas, an idealistic, fragile, escapist island where girls and women can feel safe and keep their dreams going. It becomes an idea that doesn't really exist, except as an idea.
What is real? How do you define real?
It's a perfection that, like all other perfections, cannot be found in the real world. We can't really reach it, and perhaps if we could reach it, we would still find faults within it we must address. Idealistic notions have a tendency to inhabit a place that is easily missed and even easier to attack. But it gives us something to pursue.
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. Alright?
Alright.
A more just society, like all idealistic ends, while it may seem like a lofty, perhaps unreachable goal, requires consistent efforts.
You have to try. Even if you can't make it perfect, you can make it better.
Ultimately, Barbie, like Pinocchio, chooses to inhabit the real world, not as a doll, but as a self-governing, liberated human being.
I want to be a part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining. I don't want to be the idea.
As humans, we have an existence that is fundamentally different from the way objects exist. Heidegger coined the German term Dasein, being there, being in the world, to describe this type of existence that is human. We are thrown into the world, but we don't just exist in the world as objects do. We also have an understanding of our existence and relate to our world in a meaningful way. We are conscious, aware, and engaged with our environment. We're capable of reflecting on our existence, making plans, and understanding the concept of our future and mortality. Echoing Nietzsche, Barbie embraces the greatness and the flaws that make us human. For Nietzsche, recognizing human qualities is the first step towards embracing a more affirmative, life-enhancing perspective. We can let go of unrealistic expectations and illusions.
A lot of people enjoy being dead, but they're not dead really. They're just backing away from life. Reach out, take a jump.
Part 2. Ken's Search for Meaning. Ken, in all his puerile machismo, drops one of the stronger lines of the movie.
I only exist within the warmth of your gaze.
He opens up to Barbie.
Ken, you have to figure out who you are without me.
Why?
You're not your girlfriend. You're not your house. You're not your mink. Maybe all the things that you thought made you you aren't really you.
She responds. The patriarchy not only affects women, it can also stifle men by pressuring them to conform, to be tough, unemotional, and always strong. Among other things, it dictates a template for sexual attitudes, attraction, and expectations.
Barbie and Ken.
And when those expectations aren't met, it can nosedive into insecurity, depression, and lack of self-worth. In our own way, we men also haven't had it easy. Finding who we are as individuals, not as part of the men group, is crucial for fulfillment and a sense of purpose. It's a theme that's been explored countless times on screen, in lighter and darker tones, from Billy Elliot to Zoolander to Brokeback Mountain to Sex Education. It allows us to reflect on our actions, learn from our mistakes, and make changes that lead to personal development. Ultimately, when we understand and accept ourselves, we're more likely to lead lives that bring us purpose and fulfillment. As a male, I feel rather unqualified and under-equipped to speak about the patriarchy. There is so much of what it is to be a woman that I don't understand. So many of those experiences that define women as they navigate society that we as men, for better or worse, by and large do not experience. But also, let's face it, there's a level of emancipation that would have been unthinkable 50 years ago, let alone back a century. The term patriarchy may resonate anachronistic, nowadays inhabiting the domain not of emancipators, but of the extreme fringes of radical, men-hating feminazis. But also facing the patriarchy as a male man raises uncomfortable questions about sexuality, about behavior, about the male gaze that may seem inane enough if you're on top of the hierarchy, but not so innocuous if you're on the receiving end. Can we question what we think we know about the nature of, say, flirting? Is it an innocent dance between two individuals, or could it be masking deeper societal issues? How do we distinguish flirting from sexual harassment? Is it merely about consent, or is there more to it? What role do power dynamics play in this? Could what one person perceives as harmless banter become torment for someone else? Take the wolf whistle as an example. How does it fit into our evolving societal norms? Once considered a compliment or a bit of fun, wolf whistling is increasingly seen as objectification, an unwelcome intrusion into personal space, and street harassment. A wolf whistle, after all, is not a private compliment shared between two individuals who know each other, but a public act often directed at a stranger. This raises questions about respect, consent, and the power dynamics at play in public spaces. Moreover, have we given due thought to the impact of sexual harassment? Have we thought about its psychological toll, its ability to shrink personal and professional spaces for women, to engender fear and insecurity? Are we doing enough to create safe, respectful environments where relationships are formed on the foundation of mutual respect and understanding? These are complex questions, demanding deep introspection from each one of us. Such questions may lead us to reevaluate who we really are, who we've been, and where we're headed. This in itself may stoke fires in our psyche we'd rather let be, from remorse, regrets, and shame, to loss of what we thought was our identity as men, its core trained and reinforced for generations. It may force us through a grueling and overwhelming process of catharsis, for which we may not feel ready. But if we want society to better itself, it is essential that we recognize that we men stand in a position of cultivated inequality. Instead of dismissing the term patriarchy, we should all speak up about it. This way we can challenge and change the harmful norms it upholds. We can listen to women's experiences and advocate for equality, calling out sexism where we see it. We as a gender also stand to gain by helping create a society that is more accepting of all forms of masculinity, where men can live authentically without feeling pressured to fit into a rigid stereotype. In essence, we can contribute to a more just, equal, and understanding society that benefits everyone, regardless of gender. But is it really that bad for women? Can we take the term matriarchy and use it to represent the softer influence women wield within their families? This is especially common in certain regions, such as Southern Europe, where women often manage the household, including the family finances, even when those finances are primarily contributed by the husband. Is that matriarchy? Perhaps, but it is crucial to distinguish this type of familial influence from the societal and institutionalized power that the term patriarchy refers to. Patriarchy permeates through laws, societal norms, and institutional structures that implicitly and explicitly favor men. This power is not limited to the family or households, but extends to the broader social, political, and economic landscape. If we apply the term matriarchy in this familial sense, this form of soft power often resides in the gaps left by the patriarchal system. These gaps might exist in areas traditionally relegated to women: child rearing, home management, or managing familial relationships and social events. The analogy of a dog eating scraps from the table comes to mind. The power within the gaps women have is dependent on what the patriarchal system deems less important, akin to the scraps that fall from the master's table. Part 3. A Genealogy of Rights. It's worth noting that there are corners of the globe inching towards true gender emancipation, bolstered by laws and policies that advocate for equality. Indeed, in many countries, women now enjoy rights unheard of a century ago. The right to vote, the right to own property, to access education and healthcare, and to work in professions previously barred to them. Legal protections against discrimination and gender-based violence have also been established in many parts of the world. For instance, Nordic countries like Sweden, Denmark and Finland have policies promoting equal pay, generous parental leave and high representation of women in politics. But even in these places, a cultural jet lag remains, an undercurrent of old norms and attitudes that must be addressed. While we've made significant strides in women's rights, these advancements don't always translate into lived equality. The law might decree equality, but it often takes longer for societal attitudes and behaviors to catch up. Women are still underrepresented in positions of power, be it in politics, business, or academia. By and large, women are also more likely to bear the brunt of unpaid work like childcare or domestic chores, regardless of whether they also work full-time. And alarmingly, violence against women remains a global issue. According to WHO, 1 in 3 women globally have been subjected to physical or sexual violence in their lifetimes. Unfortunately, in many places, the law doesn't even pretend to support gender equality. In certain nations, women's rights are still heavily curtailed, with restrictions on their mobility, education, and ability to work, such as in Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia. It's clear that the struggle for emancipation is not a done deal, but a work in progress, a mosaic of advances and setbacks, of laws and cultural practices that constantly shape and reshape the meaning of being a woman in our world today. As we look at history, it's easy to assume that progress is linear. We see the abolition of slavery, the suffragettes' victory, the civil rights movement, and LGBTQ+ rights. And it feels like we are on a one-way track towards a more equal society. Philosophers such as Hegel have proposed theories of history as a linear march towards an ultimate, ideal end state. But this narrative can be deceiving. Thinkers like Michel Foucault warned against such a streamlined perspective, contending that power structures subtly shift and reshape themselves without necessarily leading to a greater state of freedom or equality. The stark reality is that rights aren't irrevocable prizes that once won are ours forever. The arc of history isn't inherently just, and it doesn't inevitably bend towards progress. For evidence, we need look no further than recent moves by the traditional family-first government of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Italy to erase the names of lesbian, non-biological mothers from children's birth certificates. Or consider the United States, where the Supreme Court in 2022 overturned the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, ending a right to abortion that had been upheld for decades. Even within the European Union, home to some of the world's most advanced healthcare system, we see places like Malta maintaining a draconian stance on termination of pregnancy. To talk about abortion rights is to talk about much more than a political tug-of-war. It's to talk about the health, autonomy, and rights of women. It's about balancing a multitude of realities. A woman's physical and mental health, her financial and social circumstances, and the autonomy of a developing fetus. Yet when we weigh these factors, we must consider what's actual versus what's potential. A woman's life, her autonomy, her well-being, these are actualities. The life of a fetus, while undoubtedly important, remains a potentiality until it can exist independently. The irony of the pro-life stance is that it often neglects to consider the quality of life for the woman or for the potential child. What kind of life awaits a child brought into a world where they may not be wanted, or where their parents can't adequately provide for them? The opposition to abortion can often cast a long shadow, one shaped by patriarchal power structures and religious moral codes. This shadow can even engulf women themselves, leading them to uphold ideologies that restrict their autonomy. It's a complex and layered issue, but at its heart is the need to recognize and respect the rights of women to have control over their bodies and their own lives. This struggle against patriarchy is not just about combating blatant discrimination, but also about ensuring that every woman has the right to make decisions about her body and her life. The color of freedom might not be pink, but it's probably not a coincidence that the color for the fight of women's rights often is. The term patriarchy remains relevant as it reflects these ongoing issues that still need to be addressed. Barbie, in all its pink glamour, celebrates emancipation, calling us to carry a bit of pink as a signifier of the joy of unapologetic authenticity, the strength in challenging entrenched norms, and the value of being human, all too human. Whether it adorns our attire or imbues our ethos, it becomes a banner of self-expression, a reminder of our shared journeys toward self-discovery, equality, and understanding, and an acknowledgement of the freedoms, insights, and potentialities that lie within us all.
And they have souls, and they've got ambition, and they've got talent, as well as just hearts, as well as just beauty. And I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it.
Thank you so much for joining me in this discussion. For more enriching conversations on all things philosophy, I invite you to visit the website philosophymt.com. There you can find articles, discussions, and resources that aim to make philosophy accessible and engaging. Don't forget to check out the PhilosophyMT podcast, where we delve into various philosophical topics in a casual and relatable manner. The PhilosophyMT YouTube channel also provides a treasure trove of enlightening content that aims to expand our understanding of the world. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep updated with our latest episodes and videos. Together, let's continue our quest for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom.